Stan Gibilisco here, proprietor and operator of amateur radio station W1, GV, Whiskey 1, Good Vibrations. Here to talk a little bit more about learning the Morse code. It's a very important fact about the Morse code that I had completely overlooked because it just never occurred to me that anyone might do this. But I have learned that some people, when they are trying to memorize the Morse code, envision dots and dashes as if they were printed on a piece of paper. For example, the letter C would be dash, dot, dash, dot. And they actually try, as the letters come in by audible sound, to envision these dash, dot, symbols in their heads. That is an absolute no-no. For amateur radio purposes, Morse code is an audio language. Something like, I don't know whether the word metalanguage would suffice here because the Morse code for, say, Russian is different than the Morse code for English. However, in any case, for amateur radio purposes, Morse code is an audible or audio language, not a visual language. In some military applications, perhaps flashing lights can be used. But if you learn to read the Morse code as sound, then you will be able automatically, I think, to be able to do it for flashing lights, although because of the limitations of the human eye, the speed is limited before the dots would begin to blur with one another. Nevertheless, Morse code is a audible language. We use da di da di da da di da for CQ, for example. Of course, it really comes out something more like do 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 do, something like that. Could you pick that up? I'm a little hoarse today. But in any case, don't try to envision dots and dashes when you're trying to read the Morse code, and don't try to envision anything. Associate the sound with the letter, and eventually you'll associate sounds with groups of letters and words with practice, and eventually you will get to the point where you simply hear the code and understand what is being said. As for sending, well, as I indicated in another video, I learned to send the code first. I'm not sure if that was the best method. I learned to send before I learned to receive. I'm not sure if that's the best method. And as for writing things down, I did come across one video that said, forget about written characters entirely. Well, sometimes you do have to write down what you hear, especially if the message is an emergency message and there's no other way to record the message for someone else to read other than to write it on paper. So you should learn, in my opinion, not only to read the Morse code in your head, but to copy it. That is to say, transcribe it into printing or writing on paper. There's a limit to how fast you can print or handwrite, but the code will rarely get faster these days than anything that would challenge those limits. So that is my take. The Morse code is an audio language or metalanguage. Envisioning characters, dots, dashes, or anything else, don't do it. Hear the sound, understand the letter, or transcribe it into the letter as you understand it. Eventually, hear the sound, hear a word, hear the sound, and maybe with enough experience, you'll even be able to infer the mood or disposition or frame of mind of the sender. There are specific expressions used among ham radio operators that convey such things. But there's more, and you'll only learn that after decades of loving and using the Morse code. Stangibilisco W1GV saying 73, which means best regards and transcribes into da da did 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 da da, and so long, which, as always, translates into did 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 da did da.